All right, I am here with Dr. McCleary, and he has written a book about weight loss and how certain foods can help you lose weight. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Dr. Larry McCleary, and my training is probably a little bit atypical for most people who write weight loss books. By training, I am a brain surgeon, did that in children for a number of years. And the way I got into weight loss was I took care of a number of kids with sick brains starting 30 years ago and came up with dietary recommendations designed to help them heal their sick brains faster and more completely. And when they went home, their parents started using the diet, and when the kids came back for follow-up appointments to the hospital, the parents said, well, gee, I've lost 5 pounds or 10 pounds. Is this a weight loss diet as well? And I didn't know what to tell them because it was really a brain-healthy diet, and that prompted me to do, or to hire someone to do a human clinical trial to test the diet, which I did, and it was successful, and people lost about 3/4 of a pound of fat per week, and that's how I got into the field of weight loss medicine.
Awesome. So what kinds of problems would you do surgery on? Like, what kind of issues would they have?
Well, I took care of kids from birth to about age 18 to 20, and kids who had brain surgeries either had congenital problems, pressure on the brain, brain tumors, traumatic injuries, or problems with the fluid spaces getting enlarged. So it was a whole array of problems. And many of those, for example, if a child was in a car accident and came into the hospital, the child might have abdominal injuries and head injuries and could be in the hospital for a number of months.
Okay.
And that's where I realized that if that child was going to be under my care and recovering for a long period of time, and the child may have been comatose to start with, the hospital stay would be long, and nutrition might really play an important role.
Okay. So it's not so much that these certain foods would cure their brain, it would just help the healing process?
That's correct. It's if you injure the brain, there are some nerve cells that die, there are some nerve cells that are not injured, but many of them are in between. It's kind of like they don't know which way to go, to recover or to die.
Right.
And by providing them with a proper nutrition, you help more of those cells return to a normal state of function. And we found that nutrition was quite important at that period of time.
And so would you see like other health improvements in the kids as well, it sounds like? So they would heal faster, but not only that, they would improve their health not only in their brain but elsewhere in their body, it sounds like.
Yes, that's correct, because any type of traumatic injury, for example, is catabolic, which means the body breaks down its tissues, and if you provide the proper nutrition, it helps the body build up tissues, and the brain is just another type of tissue. So nutrition is good for the whole body, and trauma surgeons have known that for a long time, but neurosurgeons, even today, are just becoming aware of that.
Okay. So it talks here about the diet would be, there's a lot of mix of things, it sounds like here, because we talk about lean protein, healthy fats, high fiber, complex carbs, and then also it mentions a little bit about the glycemic. Do you also kind of look into the glycemic index? Is it kind of a glycemic index type diet?
Well, I think that it's kind of like glycemic index turbocharged, but from a totally different perspective. And let me explain that, because that really is one of the key differentiators. When I was getting into the whole diet, nutritional approach to brain health field, I knew from my training that the brain is mostly fat. We're really, truly fat heads. And what I mean by that is that about 70% of the tissue, of the chemicals or compounds that make up the brain are fat. And that's not true for any other organ in the body.
Wow.
And those compounds are delicate and very functional, and they break down and they need to be replaced. And if you eat a diet that's low in fat, which is what we've been told to do since 1977,
Right.
it's easy to see how the brain's not going to get the nutrients it needs. So,
Wow, I've never heard that before. I mean, I'd heard before that it's good to get healthy fat, but I didn't know that it was the brain.
yes, exactly. It's brain healthy fats. And what's interesting, you mentioned the glycemic index. As we all know, if you eat white bread or sugar or donuts, things like that, they have a high glycemic index, and what that means is they release sugar to the bloodstream rapidly, and
Right.
the body has trouble handling that. So a lower glycemic index food, such as broccoli or lettuce, which has a glycemic index of 10, for example, is better. Well, if you look at the glycemic index of these brain-healthy fats, what do you think it is? It's 0.
Oh, wow.
They have 0 impact on blood sugar, and so if you want to eat a low glycemic index diet, these brain-healthy fats, if you include them in the diet, they're about the best thing that you can do if you want to control blood sugar.
So what are some examples of these fats that have a 0 glycemic index?
Well, all fat has 0 glycemic index, but what I recommend is fats that are brain healthy, and there are 3 or 4 that I think people should know about. One of them your listeners or viewers might be well aware of, and that is, when we've grown up, our parents have always said, hey, eat fish, it's brain food.
Yeah.
Now, why is that? It's because if you eat cold water fish, they have these long-chain healthy omega-3 fats, and those are what we take if we take fish body oil capsules.
Okay.
They're like, they keep fish from freezing, so they stay liquid across a great temperature range, and that's important for brain cells because it keeps our brain cells flexible, and that allows them to react appropriately to the trillions of nerve impulses that are transmitted daily. So those are found in fish like tuna, salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and so forth.
Wow.
And so there's a whole array of them. There are also some shorter chain omega-3 fats which do similar things that are found in plants. And those are, for example, ground flax seeds, flaxseed oil. You also get them in pumpkin seeds, walnuts, and green leafy vegetables. So they're in a number of different plant foods. But what's important about the plant-based omega-3s is not only are they good to keep nerve cells flexible and responsive, but they're a great source of energy. So they can actually substitute for sugar, provide energy for a long period of time without the sugar crash at the end. So
are they also considered a complex carb then? Is that
no? Those are actually fats from plants.
Okay.
They're not carbohydrates.
Okay.
Okay, and one of the new plant foods that I think is very important for brain health, and people are starting to hear about it these days, is the oil that comes from coconuts, coconut oil, and it looks like margarine, but it's white. It's kind of waxy at room temperature.
Yeah.
But if you put a tablespoonful in oatmeal or a smoothie that you make in the morning, it will turbocharge your brain for hours. And a number of people who have done that have told me, I can't believe it. I eat some coconut oil and I don't get hungry for hours. I mean, a lot of people go from breakfast to dinner. So it really, it's powerful. It's better than sugar for the brain. It's a higher octane fuel. So these are all good brain healthy fats. And another group are called monounsaturated fats.
Okay.
And again, these are in plants, and you get them in oily fruits, for example, such as olives and avocados, but you also get them in nuts and seeds.
Okay.
So they're, nuts and seeds are good. They're just a little bit calorie dense, but the fats in them are very healthy.
Okay.
And the one type of fat that people should know about that they should avoid are what are called trans fats, and those are partially hydrogenated vegetable oils, and they're listed on you've got to read labels. They're listed on labels as partially hydrogenated sunflower oil or safflower oil or corn oil.
Got it.
And those are bad because they're bad for cholesterol. We've all heard that. They elevate bad cholesterol and they cause a fall in good cholesterol, but from a brain perspective, they counteract the beneficial effects of all of these brain healthy fats. And if you just look at kids with ADD or ADHD, that's obviously a brain problem. They tend to have lower levels of these healthy fats in their brain and higher amounts of trans fats. So, these are important and they can affect function and how we think and interact in the world.
Awesome. I'm listening to all these foods that you're eating, and they're good food. Like you're talking about coconut oil, and my wife actually tried switching over to using coconut oil instead of margarine or butter, and I think I like it better in a lot of senses than margarine or butter. It tastes really good.
Well, it's interesting because it's if you've tried it, it's a fat, but the taste of it is almost sweet.
Right.
And there aren't many fats that you would describe as sweet. The other thing is, it's really a very good cooking oil. So if you're used to cooking with butter or olive oil, you can add a little bit of coconut oil and cut back on those, or just use it, like, for example, if you cook chicken, do coconut chicken, put a little bit of coconut oil in the frying pan and saute the chicken in. And it provides a very delicate sweetness. Yeah. So it's it can take a food that you're used to eating and cooking and provide a novel twist that makes it seem like a different dish.
Oh yeah, and I would also say that olive oil tastes better to me than canola oil or those partially hydrogenated oils. I prefer olive oil any day, and it's good, for baking. Like if we would cut up sweet potatoes and kind of cover them in olive oil and on salt and pepper, and that is really good to have sweet potatoes with olive oil.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you can, as you say, you can do the same thing with coconut oil in that regard. And what's interesting is that it, again, provides very good nutrition for the brain. There's actually a product that's called a medical food, which is kind of halfway in between a nutritional supplement and a pharmaceutical compound. You actually need a doctor's prescription to get it, but it's a food, and that's called Axona. And it's made by a company in Colorado, and it's gone through FDA trials, and it's actually a treatment for Alzheimer's disease. And the way it works, it's totally different than the other pharmaceuticals. The way it works is it allows the brain to generate more energy, so it makes it more efficient and more effective at functioning. And when people who had Alzheimer's ate this product, and it's a powder that you pour into water, stir it up, and drink a glass of it twice a day. People thought more clearly, remembered better, and could focus better for a number of hours. And you know what the active ingredients in that are?
No, what?
They're the fats that are in coconut oil. It says on the package, don't take this product if you're allergic to palm oil or coconut oil. Right. So that's how powerful these fats are.
Amazing. I'm getting really motivated here to go get some coconut oil, and you can't really find it in a lot of places. You have to go to health food stores, or you can actually buy it online. That's where we bought some coconut oil recently.
Well, you can, that's a problem in some areas. If the coconut oil contains medium chain triglycerides. That's really the fats that are important for the brain, and you can go online and just buy pure medium chain triglycerides, but they have kind of an oily taste and they're not very sweet. They don't have the flavor that coconut oil has. But a lot of places like Whole Foods and better grocery stores are starting to have or carry coconut oil. The problem is many of the employees who work there haven't seen it, don't know where it is, so sometimes you have to ask one or two people.
And what I've noticed, it comes in like a canister, not like a bottle. It comes kind of more like in a not like kind of like Crisco, but it's kind of like the one that we got had a screw-on lid instead of like a big opening, rather than like any olive oil or vegetable oil. It came in kind of a little bit different kind of package.
Yeah, it's almost like a tub with maybe a 4 or 5 inch in diameter screw top.
Yeah.
And you unscrew. I mean, you can unscrew it, take the sealer off, take a scoop out with a spoon, put the top back on, and you don't even need to refrigerate it.
Yeah.
So it's easy to use, easy to store.
And at room temperature, it's kind of at that not quite liquid, not quite solid. It's just it's kind of like you said, like kind of like not margarine, but like Crisco.
Exactly.
But melts real easy.
Yeah, I mean it's something that if people get nothing out of this phone call, coconut oil is a good take-home message.
Awesome. Well, and it's not just, and you mentioned several other fats that I'm motivated to eat more tuna, to eat more fish, and I think Americans don't eat a lot of fish. And, we're more of a beef-eating society rather than a fish-eating society. And, and it is a big country, and people in the middle of the country, it's hard to find fresh fish. But, we have canned fish, and that's probably, is it better to get fresh fish over something that's canned?
Well, I would say, anytime you can get fish that's fresh, that's, what they do now is they flash freeze it out in the ocean. And if you get fish that is flash frozen and, transported right to your store, that's probably the best fish for you to be eating. Farmed fish, they don't usually feed the farmed fish very well. They feed it corn, cracked corn, things like that. So the mix of fats in the fish that are farm raised are a bit different than they are in the natural state, whether they're from a stream, lake, or the ocean.
Okay. So the whole thing here is avoid sugars and to get these healthy fats, and then from there just get some lean protein is what I'm understanding, and some and the carbs need to be complex carb. I'm still not quite sure the difference between a carb and a complex carb. Can you describe that for me?
Well, complex carbohydrates, carbohydrates are a macronutrient food group, and there can be simple carbs such as sugar, or various sugars, high fructose corn syrup, glucose, fructose, those are all simple sugars. You can get maltose or maltodextrin, which is glucose molecules hooked end to end, and that's in beer, for example.
Okay.
So those are simple carbohydrates. The complex carbohydrates are usually carbohydrates that have long chemical signatures, meaning there are sugar molecules, thousands of them hooked end to end.
Okay.
And if they're in natural foods, they're usually complexed with fiber.
Okay.
And those are the good ones. The ones that have fiber are the ones you want to be eating. If you eat starch, such as a potato or white bread, those are complex carbohydrates, but they're not bound to fiber. So the body breaks them down rapidly and delivers a high surge of sugar to the bloodstream all at one time. If you eat lettuce, broccoli, beans, red or green peppers, asparagus, that type of thing, those are complex carbs bound to fiber, so they're slowly broken down in the body, and the sugar that they contain is released over 4, 5, or 6 hours rather than 15 minutes. So the body doesn't have to deal with a real surge of sugar. And, it's important for people to understand that, because if we eat a diet that causes these spikes in sugar, then our insulin levels go up, and if we have insulin levels that are high periodically or in a sustained fashion throughout the day, that can lead to weight gain and all kinds of health problems.
Right.
And if you calculate, and this surprised me when I did this, if you calculate the amount of glucose, which is blood sugar, the amount of glucose in our entire bloodstream, it's about 10 to 20 grams.
Wow.
Now, if you eat okay, you'll probably drink a can of soda. You're getting 60 grams of sugar. That's 3 times what's in your whole bloodstream.
Wow.
So it just kind of puts these numbers, it gives them some perspective.
And so I've read a little bit about this. So when you do something like that, your insulin spikes and goes through the roof, and then your body kind of goes into a fat storing mode. Is that kind of what I'm getting? Is that what happens?
I mean, if you understand that, you are smarter than 99% of the people out there. And here's the reason why. Because if you talk about insulin, we all know it, or most people understand insulin to be a hormone that the body makes normally, and that controls blood sugar.
Yeah.
Okay? But the hormone insulin wears 2 hats. It controls blood sugar, but also it is the most powerful fat storage signal in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So if insulin levels go up, then sugar gets carried out of the bloodstream, and that's good, but fat gets stored in fat cells. And
it has to do something with that sugar.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly what happens. And it's interesting because if you eat a low-fat diet, you're eating a high-carbohydrate diet.
Mm-hmm.
And if you pick the wrong carbohydrates, you can be spiking your insulin levels multiple times throughout the day. And that's causing multiple periods of fat storage throughout the day.
Yeah.
And if you store 1 gram, which is about the size of the fingernail on your little finger, 1 gram of fat 3 or 4 times a day, that'll make you store or gain 5 pounds of fat in a year.
Wow.
And so in 10 years, that's 50 pounds.
Yeah.
So if you graduate from college and you weigh 150 in 10 years, just with that type of eating habit.
Even not going overboard, not eating too many calories, just eating the wrong types of food.
Right, exactly. And several people have said, what do you think is the best thing that you wrote about in your book? And I think you just hit the nail on the head. Most doctors, if you say, I've gained 5 or 10 pounds, how can I lose the weight? They'll say you need to eat less and exercise more. So it's almost like saying you can't have the food you want to eat.
Right.
And whenever you tell someone you can't do something, what do you want to do? Just what you've been told you can't do. So, I mean, it really kind of does a number on your head. By looking at sticky fat cells and the factors that make fat cells hang on to fat, which is what you were alluding to, that being the hormone insulin, you can, if you understand that, you can recast weight gain and weight loss not from the perspective of you cannot eat this or that, but you can change it to, if you make the right food choices, you will naturally not be wanting to eat as much. You won't develop food cravings and food addictions, and so your appetite will diminish, and your body will tell you naturally not to eat so much.
Yeah. You know what I like most about the concept of your book, and I'm definitely going to go out and buy it, but is that what I've learned is that weight loss already is a mental game. Just in and of itself is a mental game to overcome a lot of your habits. Well, you might as well feed your brain so it's in top condition to be able to fight that, and then in the process you're going to be having a healthier diet. So your brain's going to be more in tune to be able to overcome some of these habits, and your diet will be improved, and it's just a win-win, it sounds like to me.
Well, I totally agree, and I think that's a powerful message. Have you ever, when you get hungry, and your brain's telling you need to eat, usually that's the same time when, if you're doing some mental work, you find yourself with your mind wandering, reading the same paragraph 2 or 3 times, or not being able to focus. And so really your brain is starving at that period of time. It needs nutrition. And it's interesting, if you think of the brain as 2 sets of nerve cells.
Yeah.
One's in the appetite center that tell you to get hungry, and nerve cells elsewhere throughout the brain that don't have anything to do with appetite. They are charged with other functions such as thinking, remembering, calculating.
Yeah. So we don't do ourselves any good by feeding us sugar.
If you start, yeah, exactly.
And that's usually what I go to if I'm feeling down. I need a pick me up. I go for a Coca-Cola or something with caffeine or something like that. And that's probably the worst thing you can do.
Well, that's exactly right, and that's what the brain craves at those times, because one of the major fuels of the brain is sugar, and when it senses itself being deprived, that's what it's going to tell you to eat. So that starts a vicious cycle. You get hungry, you eat those types of carbohydrates or comfort foods, which is really what they are. You feel better for a half hour, and then you get hungry again. So it's a cycle that repeats itself throughout the day. And as you mentioned earlier, each one of those periods is associated with fat storage.
Right. Well, we could. I could go on for a long time talking to you about this because it's so interesting. But we'll leave some for the readers to be able to go out and get the book, because it's called Feed Your Brain, Lose Your Belly, and it's Dr. McCleary, and he knows what he's talking about here. He's a doctor, and he's seen the results in clinical studies. This isn't just his personal opinion. These are studies that have been done that these diets will help you lose weight and improve your brain function. Any last words for the viewers?
I think it's always important if someone hears, oh, this is a good diet for brain health and weight loss, but what's it going to do to my heart? Well, this type of diet actually has improved a number of parameters of heart health. And these are studies not done by me, but done by other heart researchers. So,
right.
You want to know that any diet or nutritional plan is good for your heart, your brain, and your belly.
Awesome. I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me. It's been a pleasure. And I will post this, and I'll definitely post a link to your website. It's drmccleary.com.
That's correct.
And how else will people get in contact with you? Is that the best way to get in contact with you?
The website, drmccleary.com, or just buy the book and let me know what you think of it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mike.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.